Hey y'all, I'm Steve from RVer Adventure, and if you're a first-time RV owner or potentially getting your first RV, then this video is for you. All right, folks, welcome back. So you got your RV, you're on your way to the RV park. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to back your RV into your spot. Well, you need to make sure that your RV is level. You can use something along these lines to make sure your RV is level. You want to put this in your refrigerator to make sure your refrigerator is level. If you have an RV refrigerator, it can't be more than 3 degrees off, or it could potentially become an issue. So put this in the refrigerator. If your RV is not level, then you want to use something to level by putting it underneath the tires. You can use a 1x4 or a 2x4, or if you want to spend the money and go ahead and get some blocks like these. These blocks are $15 and up for a packet of these. It's going to depend on what you want to use. If you can get away with throwing a couple of 2x4s or 2x6s or 2x8s underneath your tires, then that's terrific. You're just starting out, so you don't want to spend a ton of money on stuff. Then you can't afford to go out to use your RV. You can also invest in a set of Anderson blocks, which are curved items kind of similar to these, which you roll up on, and then you stick another one underneath the other side. I don't use them. I've never tried them, so I can't say whether I like them or not. Some people swear by them. Myself personally, I have an electronic device in here that tells me from in my truck whether my trailer is level or not, but that's the subject for another video. So once you get your RV level, you're going to want to get some chocks or Chocks like I use and put them out to keep the RV from moving. Remember, you want to sit there and put these things in before disconnecting from your tow vehicle. The potential of your vehicle separating from your RV and your RV rolling down a hill or something like that could be great if you don't have your wheels chocked before disconnecting. So you want to make sure that you invest in some good chocks. And these aren't that expensive. These are plastic, a couple bucks from Walmart, and you'll be good to go. I think they're $10 to $20 or something like that. If you want to invest in the Chocks, they're a little closer to $100. But if you're just starting out, those chocks, just to chock the tire, will work just fine. I started out with them, and as time went, I went ahead and upgraded to the Chocks. And I have to say that I like those because they do keep the trailer from moving quite as much. So the next thing you want to do, you want to invest in some decent gloves. Why do I say decent gloves? Because you're going to want to handle your black hose. Now you can use gloves like these and handle your black hose, or you can use disposable gloves. It's a to each his own thing, whatever you have available. What you don't want is something that anything that leaks from this hose can soak into the glove. So you don't want that. These are all sealed, so I don't have to worry about anything. You want the gloves so that you can get yourself a decent black hose. Now, when I say a decent black hose, I'm not talking about a hose like this. This is what the RV company gave me with my RV. That's crap. Invest yourself in a decent black hose. This will stretch out to 10 feet. I have 2 of them for 20 feet, and it's met every need I've needed so far, but it depends on where your outlet is on your RV as to how many of these you're going to probably need. Some people carry 50 foot of this. I only carry 20. It's entirely up to you, but this is something that you want to invest in because you don't want to have a Robin Williams RV moment while you're at an RV park and not near a shower that you can stand in and stand in and stand in to try and clean yourself off. So invest in a decent hose. This is Rhino, and usually what I do is the end that's closest where I'm going to pull it out, I'll usually tie something to it so that I can grab a hold of it and pull it out of my bumper without any issue, because sometimes they do get a little stuck in there since you put them in there and they aren't dry. So you want to invest in a good black hose. You're going to expect to pay probably $30 to $60 on a good black hose. And again, it's not something that you want to be touching with your hands. So when you're done, take your gloves off before you go touching anything else. Now, some RV parks require that you have a hose support for your black hose. This is a hose support, and all it does is you set the hose down in here and it goes at an angle down to where the black hose disposes of the contents. It just keeps it from doing anything, and you can actually use one of these and put a trap in here to keep any gases or anything like that from coming back up and into your RV. One thing I would suggest is that when you're using the black hose is that you do not leave the tank open. You can end up with flies and whatnot in your RV from the black tank. So I would suggest that you don't leave it open. It can be kind of a pain in the tuchus to try and get them flies all out. So continuing on. The support usually will run you between $35 and $50. Next thing you want to do, you want to get yourself a good water hose. My suggestion, and I didn't do this, I found out the hard way, I got a 50-foot hose. My suggestion would be to get 2 25-foot hoses. More times than not, I don't need but a very little bit of this hose. And when you put the hose away, screw the ends together so that way if there is any water in here, you don't end up with it in your tray or in your RV. It stays inside the hose until the next time you're ready to use it, and you can just drain it right out. I've been thinking about trying one of those collapsible hoses. I haven't tried one yet. If you do, make sure you get one that it says that it's food grade on it. And do not use your green hose from your yard. There's contaminants inside that hose, which is not good for you. One of the things that I do, and it's entirely up to you, is when I hook up using a splitter, a couple bucks at the hardware store. So that way if I need to use the other side for anything, in my case, I do use the other side for cleaning out my black tank. I have a one-way valve that goes on here to keep anything from going back in, and I have a one-way valve on the other end of my hose for when I flush my black tank. You might have a connection on your RV that you can just hook a hose up to. I don't have one of those, so I have to use some of the stuff that's actually in this tray, which I'm not going to get into today because this is for beginners. It's not stuff that you absolutely need to have to take your first trip. So get yourself a good splitter. You might need to rinse your feet off or rinse some shoes off or something like that. And of course that only costs you a couple bucks. A good water hose, you're looking at anywhere from $20 to $50, depending on what kind you get. They make various kinds, but you do want to make sure that you get one that is made for an RV, not for your yard. So, one of the things that you need to have for your RV is a pressure regulator. And this is a pressure regulator. The hoses for your water system inside your RV can only take so much pressure, which is why you need to have this. Typical RVs is usually somewhere around 40 to 50 PSI. Some of the more expensive ones will be a little bit higher. So get yourself a good pressure regulator. This one will cost you $8–10. You can get one that's a little bit more expensive and adjustable, like this one. This one is adjustable, so if the water pressure is low, you might can turn it up a little bit. If it's too high, you can always turn it down. And you can adjust it as needed for your RV. This one here is a little bit more expensive. Probably closer to 40 bucks on this. So next, a water filter. So you can go to Walmart or any place like that, get yourself a water filter like this. They're designed for RVs. They will come with a little hose like this. So that way when it's screwed on, this hose will flex. But one of the things that you probably are going to want to invest in, and it only costs a couple bucks, is an adapter. This adapter will screw into the side of your RV so that you can then take the hose and the filter and hang it like that from the side of your RV. This way, it's not out here like this. It's hanging straight down. Your hose connects to the other end and goes to the spigot. This little piece only costs you a couple bucks, and it's terrific. It might save you a lot of headaches, keep you from having to replace anything down the road because it's dry rotted and cracked or anything like that. So the filter is going to cost you probably somewhere around 17 bucks. You can get as fancy as like big filters for your house with a kit that actually goes for an RV, and you can expect to pay upwards over $200 for those. It all depends on what you want and how much you want to spend. Like I say, the purpose of this video is to try and get you out without spending a whole lot of money. So we will move on. The next thing you have to have, and much like your black hose, you do not want to skimp on this item. This is a surge protector for your RV. If there is an issue with the electric in most RV parks, which there usually is, this could save your air conditioner and all your electronics inside your RV from getting exposed to a surge. Now, this one here costs around $100. This is the one that I got when I first started going RVing. Recently, I purchased this one, which does a few more things and offers a little bit more protection. So this, I paid Progressive Industries, I think I paid closer to $300 for this one. But again, this offers more protection than this. This is a one-time use. If it blows, you're done. This one, if it blows, I can order parts and they can ship them out to me, and I can go ahead and replace the parts that are damaged. So next we have the dog bone. You need to have a dog bone because a lot of RV parks only have 50 amp. This is 30 amp. So this goes from 50 amp to 30 amp. And they come in various types. This is more like a Walmart version. This one here is more like a Camping World type version. It's going to depend on where you get it as to how much you pay for it. But they can go from a couple bucks up to 30 bucks. Maybe even more depending on what you get and where you get it from. So if you have a 30 amp trailer, then you're probably going to want to have a dog bone so you can plug into a 50 amp plug, because Some parks offer only 50 amp and then 110. Some parks offer 50, 30, and 110. So it all depends on where you go. I've had to use mine a number of times. Just depends on where you are. Next, tire pressure gauge. You need to make sure you invest in a good tire pressure gauge, because the last thing you need is one of the tires on your RV to pop because it's underinflated and gets overheated. So get yourself a good tire pressure gauge that will go from like 0 to 125 psi, so that you can make sure you have the proper tire pressure inside your tires on your RV. Down the road, you can invest in a tire pressure management system, and then when you're driving down the road, if you get a tire that's too hot or starts losing air, it'll notify you. But for starting out, get yourself a good tire pressure gauge. Before you leave, preferably usually the day before, go out, check your tire pressure, make sure you have the right tire pressure in your tires before you leave. When you're ready to go, that's not the time to figure out that you got a low tire and now you got to drag out a compressor and try and fill up a tire. That just adds delays and makes people grumpy. Tongue locks. So this would be a typical type tongue lock that I used to use when I started out. This goes up into where the ball is, and this goes over the top to keep anybody from throwing a ball up underneath there and driving off. And yes, I did use this even when I was at a campground. I have a different one now. I can't think of what brand it is, but it's all steel. And then you need to make sure that you have a good pin lock, the latch. Make sure you have a good lock in that so that nobody tampers with any of your stuff. Because in this world today, unfortunately, we have people who will tamper with your stuff. I invested in a good lock because I'm right here along the street, and anybody could just back right up in here and snatch my trailer and take it. So I wanted to make sure I invested in a good lock. This one, I always felt like somebody could take a hammer and wrap it a couple times and knock it right off the end of the tongue. But it served its purpose. It was, I don't know, between $30 and $50, I think. And, you know, it served its purpose for the RV or when I had it until I got an upgraded one. Okay, next we have sewer treatment, and I dropped it. Sewer treatment. So you need to have sewer treatment for something to put down inside your black tank, so that when you're using your black tank, something is eating up the stuff you're putting in there, the solids and the papers and stuff that you're putting in there. This is made by Thedford, and it's Campachem. They come in little pouches. You drop the pouches down into the tank, the pouch dissolves, and the chemicals start eating at the waste that you put in there. So that way, when you drain your black tank, it flushes nice and smoothly, and there's not solids that's coming out, which is what you want. We started out using that. I don't like it because I have allergies, and this has a perfumey smell to it, or a flowery smell, and the trailer tends to smell like this stuff. So we switched to Happy Camper. Happy Camper is a little harder to get, and it's a little bit more expensive, but you don't have that scent inside the RV. So that's why we use the Happy Camper. There are some videos out there of people using non-toiletry stuff to keep their tank clean, but that's the subject of another video. So for the sewer treatment, you're looking at between $8 and $30. For the Happy Camper, you're probably looking at more than that, because this is a little bit more expensive. Right, next is toilet paper. So you can't just go down to your local supermarket and buy regular old toilet paper and use it in your RV. Well, I guess you can, but you might have to deal with the consequences of doing such. You need to make sure that you have septic safe toilet paper. Now we all know that the RV toilet paper usually comes so thin that you can put your finger through it real easy. So you got to end up using more, but paper is what usually kills or gives you the most issue inside your septic tank. It's usually what gets stuck in there. It gets stuck on the sensors, giving you false readings. So you really have to be careful about what it is that you put in there. So make sure you get septic safe paper for your tank. You want that paper to break down after it goes down into the tank so that you don't have issues. All right, so that's pretty much my list of things that you need to have to start out your RV trip. Now, there are some things that you might be able to take from your home that you already have. Silverware, plates, paper plates, towels, obviously clothing. If you have a first aid kit at the house, it's recommended that you have a good first aid kit with you. Things like that. Anything that you can take from the house that you don't have to buy just to use your first RV is a bonus. It's something that you can save the money on and put the money into your camping trip. I'm all for that. So don't think that you have to buy everything you need. The things that I told you are the things that you need to have for your first trip to be able to successfully use your RV. And I think that's it. All right. Till next time, I'm Steve with Avenger RV Adventure. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for future videos. Thanks for stopping by. Good luck with your first camping trip.